Chapter 51. An offer, a cure, and an alliance forged in chaos. Theo faced Naven Bacchus, known infamously as the Bacchus family's unofficial strongest sword, a title underscored by the fierce, wolf-like crest of their house. Theo knew Naven's tragic history. Despite possessing abilities comparable to Thorkel, a renowned Bacchus warrior, Naven received no recognition from his family. The reason was his birth, an illegitimate child born in a brothel, a stain on their noble lineage. Instead of nurturing his exceptional talent, his very existence became a threat. As a result, his mother had been forced to leave the world, a young Naven left weeping over her lifeless body. Because of this deeply seated resentment, Theo surmised, Naven surely harbored intentions of revenge against the Bacchus family. If Theo could leverage this, he might just sway Naven to his side. "Let me help you," Theo offered again, "with your revenge and the downfall of the Bacchus family." Naven ran a hand through his hair, looking weary. He admitted he didn't know where Theo got his information about his mother, but one thing was certain. He punctuated his unspoken thought with a lightning-fast series of slashes, each one aimed to kill. Theo parried furiously, the force of Naven's assault pushing him back, the ground cracking under the impact of their clashing blades. One particularly vicious strike sent Theo flying, embedding him in the courtyard wall. Naven, lightning crackling around his own sword, declared he had no reason to accept Theo's offer. Theo pulled himself, stating that even without his help, the Bacchus family was destined to fall due to their treason. Naven acknowledged this. Without his intervention, the Bacchus family would indeed disappear. Theo met his gaze intently, adding, "Together with you." Naven dismissed it as a useless worry, claiming he had no regrets in life and wouldn't mind disappearing along with that damned family. Theo then played his trump card, revealing it was because of an illness Naven contracted because his young body couldn't bear the strain of his immense talent. Theo explained that with intensive treatment in its early stages, it could have been cured. But if that window was missed, it became an incurable disease that drastically shortened one's lifespan. The Bacchus family, Theo stated, didn't treat Naven's illness in time. Therefore, his remaining life expectancy was 5 years. Naven's smirk returned, though it seemed a bit strained. As expected of a noble young master, he remarked, Theo had clearly done some dirty background investigation. But he defiantly declared that knowing this changed nothing. Today, right here, the Bacchus family would disappear, and he would die as Naven. He lunged again, their swords clashing with a shower of sparks. "What if I can cure your disease?" Theo interjected. Naven faltered, a flicker of disbelief in his eyes. "Nonsense," he roared. "There's no cure for dragon vein fever." He unleashed another flurry of attacks, pressing Theo hard. "That's right," Theo confirmed, parrying. "In my past life, the cure was found, just days after your death." He revealed a glimpse of the device that, in his previous timeline, had been key to the cure, now a secret only he possessed. "So now, only I know the cure for the disease." He pushed Naven back, stating firmly, "No, it can be cured." With 100% certainty. Naven stared, a mixture of shock and dawning hope on his face. Theo pressed his advantage. Just as Naven himself had said, the Bacchus family would disappear even without Naven working with him. "But if you take my hand," Theo offered, extending his own, "even after the Bacchus family disappears, you can live as a hero that helped the Ragnar family." He urged Naven to trust him, just this once. Meanwhile, the battle raged around them. Ceres' soldiers loaded and fired massive ballistae, sending volleys of giant bolts streaking through the air. Evelyn and Cleve moved like blurs, deflecting the projectiles with incredible skill. Cleve commented on how annoying the situation was, and Evelyn, panting slightly, agreed, wondering if Theo wasn't done with the chat yet. It seemed like a pretty intense talk-no-jutsu session. They observed Theo and Naven, still facing each other, seemingly locked in conversation. Cleve, losing patience with the endless barrage of projectiles, muttered if she couldn't just kill Everyone? Robert Ragnar cautioned her not to act up if she couldn't handle the fallout. Robert mused that their priority was to analyze Theo's potential. They should consider recruiting him soon. She asked if Robert was ordering Cleve to merely observe Theo, despite knowing he'd caught the Blood Priest, an event they hadn't witnessed directly. Robert confirmed it was true. That was why they needed to confirm his abilities. The Black Pillar's mission, he reiterated, was to accurately analyze individuals who would lead Ragnar's future. He instructed the operative to keep in mind that securing additional evidence was the core mission, but Cleve should focus on assessing Theo's capabilities. The operative then asked about the limits of the if-you-can stipulation Robert had mentioned earlier regarding intervention. Robert, after a thoughtful pause, confirmed it related to the demonic cult, permitting Cleve to interfere if cultists at the bishop level or above appeared. Cleve sighed internally. Robert would nag her endlessly if she interfered with only this level of threat. But, she thought with sudden urgency, if the mission was delayed, her clock-off time would also be delayed. That thought galvanized her. With renewed vigor, she deflected an incoming volley, the force of her parry sending shockwaves through the courtyard. Evelyn, startled by the sudden shift in Cleve's intensity, saw Naven raise his sword, seemingly about to strike Theo. "Did young master lose to him?" she cried out in alarm. Theo, however, moved first, rushing past Naven, leaving a bewildered Evelyn in his wake. Naven, now on their side, moved to intercept the Bacchus retainers attacking Cleve and Evelyn, his swordsmanship a dazzling display. He apologized for his earlier discourtesy to the ladies. Cleve, acknowledging his change of allegiance, asked if this display would earn her forgiveness for her own prior discourtesy, likely her initial aggressive engagement. Naven grinned. They were now on the same side. A system notification chimed. Hidden quest cleared. You have successfully recruited Ghost Sword Naven as your ally. The tide of battle turned swiftly. Naven, a whirlwind of destruction, carved through the Bacchus soldiers, who cried out for someone to stop him, no matter what. He leaped atop a ballista, its crew screaming to shoot him down, that he couldn't be allowed to live if he was in the air. They were too late. With a few precise strikes, Naven dismantled the siege weapon, its ropes snapping and wooden components shattering into pieces. The head Bacchus retainer, looking up at Naven silhouetted against the sky amidst the carnage, could only utter his name in disbelief. He screamed, accusing Naven of betraying the family that raised him, questioning how he could point his sword at his family. Naven landed lightly, repeating the words, "my family," with a sneer. He then launched himself at the retainer, asking coldly, "Is there a family for a dirty, illegitimate child?" His blade flashed. The remaining series soldiers cried out as their siege weapons were destroyed. Evelyn watched Naven, impressed. He truly lived up to his reputation of being able to fight equally with a young Lord Thorkel. She asked Theo how he'd managed to convince him. Theo simply replied that he'd promised Naven what he wanted. Cleve urged them not to stand still and to follow Naven's lead. Theo gave the order, capture Quodrak's series. Inside the chapel, Quodrak watched from a window as his forces were pushed back. One of his men reported their dire situation. Quodrak snarled, asking if the man thought he didn't already know. There was no time. They had to get rid of any documents that could be used as evidence. First and foremost, they needed to burn anything related to Troyven. "No," he suddenly roared, "don't touch those documents." His subordinate looked at him in confusion, asking what was wrong, urging him to think rationally to reduce unnecessary casualties. Quodrak grabbed the man by the throat, his face a mask of avarice. If they burned the documents, he hissed, how would they get back the money they had invested in Troyven? Was the subordinate suggesting they give up on that money just because of those Ragnar bastards? A dark, cloaked figure appeared silently behind Quodrak. The figure remarked that Quodrak, as a mortal, couldn't think far ahead because he was drunk on his greed. Quodrak whirled around, startled. The figure stated that, coincidentally, he needed Quodrak's help. Quodrak had come just in time. Before Quodrak could react, the figure's hand shot out, impaling the subordinate through the chest. Theo, leading the charge towards the chapel entrance, saw the end of the conflict in sight. He urged his team to continue pushing forward. The chapel doors creaked open. Theo froze, a sense of profound dread washing over him. A figure in the robes of a holy demon church bishop stood framed in the doorway, surrounded by contorted, inhuman figures. "Believers, rejoice," the bishop intoned. "It's time for you to put what you've learned into action." Behind him, a horde of red-hooded cultists, their eyes burning with fanatical light, stirred in anticipation for Kanye West's new song.